Afternoon. Maya Paveza here, and I am joined by Sherry Moritz. Sherry, say hello.
Hello.
Hello. We are here for the first Thursday Hot Topic Learning Education webinars for the HipProof community, and today's topic is rules of engagement. I know I've been talking to a couple of people on the site talking about the order that we kind of roll some of these things out, and we wanted to kind of start with the basic understanding of the social spaces so that as you progress through these series of webinars, you have that basic understanding before you create accounts, before you interact, because I think that that puts you in a much better position for building your network community and your prospecting or, online farming community. So I think that the first place to start, and Sherry I think would agree with me, is kind of understanding the rules, the hows, the whys, and the whats. Right, Sher?
Oh, absolutely. You've got to know it before you go in and just jump in, kind of like your analogy with swimming. You don't just jump in the deep end.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's true. It's the analogy I use for Twitter, but it really applies to everything. Is when you stand on the side of the pool and you watch people swimming, it looks effortless, it looks simple, it just, jump in and I can do it too, but you jump in and you drown and then you're hesitant to go back in again, and I think that that's a pretty good analogy for social media, because I think most of the agents I hear are saying, it doesn't work, why should I do it? The reason they're saying that is because they probably had that experience, somebody telling them, you should really be using this, you should be really doing that, and in the end, they fail because they just don't understand the basic rules of engagement and how the community interacts and, the messages that you want to convey, the tone, and more. So let's kick this sucker off, shall we? So welcome to Hot Topic. That's just a little bit about who we are. Sherry, why don't you give everybody a little bit of background on you, because this being the first Hot Topic webinar, I would like people to know your background because you're extremely well qualified to be here.
Well, I've been in real estate for 19 years. I was one of the top 30 under 30 in the first group a few years ago. And I've sold over 1,500 houses. I manage and own a franchise real estate company. I also designed a mentor slash new agent training program for RE/MAX, which was a 12-week-long everyday class where the agents were selling on average 12 houses a year in their first year. So I also still practice real estate, and I'm out there every day. I was out looking at houses this morning and at an inspection, so I'm out there with everyone as well.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point. The whole point about the HipProof community really is that it is for real estate agents by real estate agents. We're all doing this. That's not in any way supposed to reflect negatively, because we have friends that aren't doing it but are working in the space, because we have a lot of friends that are experts in social media, technology, but unless you've actually sold a house, unless you've been a broker, unless you've worked as a lender, the community understands the community. And as I call it, the cone of silence. So I myself am, sorry, go ahead.
And I was going to point something out along those lines, too, is that they may have sold, but how quickly do they lose touch with the agent community? Because there's somebody who's extremely big in our industry and in training who, I'll name nameless, who posted a comment today on his personal Facebook page that says, I think I've lost touch with agents. Is this a bad thing? And he's only been out of real estate for about 6 months, and I responded with, well, if you're going to be training them, yes, it might be. So, it's to get information from people who are actively out there, who are doing it every day, who don't just say be on social media because this, but actually are doing it for a living. Mm-hmm. It resonates continually, and like I said, reiterated this morning by that post.
Well, you know what, maybe we need to do, we need to have a half an hour or a short webinar talking about the HipProof and the reasons for existence, because I think we both feel very passionately about this, as do most of the expert contributors, and I think you're right, and that's an interesting point to make too, because I have a lot of people saying to me, how are you doing the social media, how are you doing, being sort of the community manager and facilitator for this website and selling real estate, you have to be one thing. And I disagree with that completely. And in my personal opinion, and this is not in any way, judging anybody else, for me personally, to do this, to tell other agents how to do it. I mean, first of all, I'm successful at the prospecting in the social spaces. And second of all, I think I would lose credibility in my own opinion. I would have no right to tell or say or speak on the topic to agents if I wasn't doing it myself. Yes, I could go out there and talk on general social media for businesses because I absolutely get that, and I do it all the time. But real estate and social media are my passions, and being a real estate agent is something I really love. So, I've had 2 closings this week, 2 contracts, a bunch of showings, and more. So I've been a licensed real estate agent in Delaware and Pennsylvania since 2001. I've worked for 3 different companies here, and I actually helped start an independent in between my first company and my current company. So that was a lot of fun and experience. I've been in a leadership development program with my current company, so I have some idea about recruitment and retention and desk occupancy fees and all that fun stuff that goes on in the managerial side, which is very different from the sales side. And I have a lot of interactions with agents who communicate to me how they feel overwhelmed a lot by the aspects of social media. So this is something that I know Sherry and I feel is just essential. So, this rules of engagement is the first step to be comfortable and successful in the social spaces. So we do it, we get it. By real estate agents, for real estate agents. Yay. So let's get going. So for this webinar, questions will be taken through the webinar panel on the screen. To talk, you can use chat. The webinar will be recorded if you miss anything. And if you have questions that are not answered, please post them in the forum directly under the post for this webinar in the archives. It will be archived by this evening. Please use the hashtag THR for any tweets during and after the webinar. So that is the community hashtag THR for the Hip Roof. So make sure we do that. And hopefully everybody's following at the Hip Roof on Twitter and our Facebook page. So today's goals. Woo, we always have goals. Goals are good. Setting your expectations. I'm big on that. Learn how social media communities engage and interact, what the rules of the social spaces are, how to become a part of the community, and how to unmarket yourself to market yourself. And that's a little nod and tip of the hat to Scott Stratton because he wrote the book Unmarketing. He is unmarketing, and he has some great concepts in that book as well. So as we move forward, there are rules. They're not written down like the 10 Commandments. They're implied, assumed, and passed along from person to person. So, going back, they're unwritten rules. That's why I call it the rules of engagement. How do you talk to somebody? How do you address somebody? When is it okay? What is your tone? What do you say? What don't you say? What do you leave unsaid? Etiquette, and just a lot of the concepts and theories of the community. So they're implied, assumed, and passed along sort of like generational lines. So when you first get into the spaces, it's always good to kind of watch and listen and learn and ask questions. People are always willing to answer questions. Respect the flow of the community. Be courteous above all else and generous. And make sure you give back, and give back by promoting others, sharing the good things that they bring to the community. Causes are always important. A lot of this, and here's the thing I've got to remember, because I'm so used to doing presentations like this that are open to the public. This is a closed community, so we can bring this a little bit more to the real estate agents. So the reality here is, guys, we're selling something. We're trying to sell something. We're trying to get clients. Perception is reality. How you are perceived is how you're received. You're out there to build your business. You need to project yourself as a professional. You need to provide good information. And you need to be very strategic in how you communicate. And if you go out there and you annoy, or I just want to say piss someone off. If you piss someone off, it is not going to serve you any purpose. And one of the keys is remembering that if you're saying something and you're being sarcastic, ironic, or snarky, if someone else is in a bad mood, they may not take that with the sort of humor that is intended. So you have to be very careful and use emoticons, smileys and things like that to sort of add the tone. Would you agree, Sherry?
Oh, absolutely. If you look at my stream, how many times do I have a smiley face?
I know.
I was like,
I know.
pick it wrong here. Look at my little smiley face. See, I'm smiling.
Yeah, and the worst part of it, too, is as we're agents in these spaces, when you're in places like Facebook, you know, if you're really ticked off at something or annoyed or you have a stupid client, which we all have those moments, you can't post it. You still have those rules of being an agent. If another realtor or real estate agent has done something that is absolutely awful, you can't say anything about it in the public spaces. That's what I hope that you can kind of be comfortable doing in HipProof. Obviously, we're not going to name names, but we can use general statements because it's still against the Code of Ethics to talk about each other. So, you know, it's just, you have to be really calculated. I mean, it almost feels like it's a little bit of sort of like stealth. I always think of it as like this stealth attack. Like you're going in there and you're sort of like swimming around like the shark and you're like, all right, where's my first victim? Who am I going after now? And that kind of is it. You're looking for the people that are just flailing about in the water going, I need a real estate agent, help me. So was that a bad analogy, Cher?
No, it actually made me think about Stefan's book, The Surviving Your Serengeti. You know, I think we're both crocodiles, and you used the shark analogy, but, you know, he talks a lot about that with the crocodiles, where we just kind of sit there and wait for our opportunity and then, you know, chomp.
You know, so. It's interesting that you bring up the Surviving Your Serengeti book because I think it's a great book. And what did he hit the top of the list on Amazon, didn't he? When
the last I saw, he was 2. He was #1 on Barnes & Noble yesterday, and Barnes & Noble stores reordered their second stocking of it. And, yeah, it's doing really, really well. And, I mean, it really should. I mean, in a disclosure of myself, it's the first book that I've read literally cover to cover since Lord only knows when. The last book I remember reading cover to cover was Roots in high school. And I get lots of books, and I scan them, and I read through them, and I pick and choose what I want. But this was a book that I read 2 days straight. Every free moment I had, I carried it around with me in the car so I could read it at, you know, a restaurant or
I had a hard time putting it down. I had to tear myself away from it, and I haven't finished everything. But, I mean, it was just that engaging. So it's just that good. But the one thing I think about it is that I want to retake the quiz and be honest with myself. Because when I was taking that quiz, I was like, how organized you are? I'm like, yeah, I'm really organized.
Totally organized. What are you talking
about?
So
not. So I think the crocodile, all these people are coming in as crocodiles because I don't think they're being honest with themselves in the answers. And I think you have to be honest with yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to get the benefit of that book. So I really, really, really have to go back and take the quiz. And I think I said that when I was talking to Ben or somebody and recently in a webinar. So take swimming lessons. This goes back to the analogy we started in the beginning about the pool. It looks easy, even effortless, but you have to take the time to observe and learn. Take notes. Watch how people use the space. You know, observe some of the top people in the space and the interactions. A lot of people discount Klout, but I will tell you what. I have been using Klout for 2 years as a reference point to how well am I doing in my interactions with my community. You know, because when my Klout score drops, I know I'm not taking the time that I need to respond to people, or I'm not sending out the best information. And you and I were talking about this yesterday. I know my score has probably fallen in the last week because I've been so busy with the website and real estate that, you know, you have to be aware of that because that really is, it's not that the numbers mean anything to anyone else or anywhere, but to me it is my personal metric for how am I doing in maintaining that platform and that tool in my business building. So, you know, I think that as much as people don't like it, Klout, and it's KLOUT.com, is a very good tool to use to monitor your interaction. And I remember it was about 2 years ago, I think, that I started using Klout, and it was right after we started the Twitter Queens, and I think that we were kind of having a little competition between us, and we were all using it in the same way. And I believe I got into the high 70s at one point, and then they adjusted their metrics. But Do you use that in the same fashion, Sherry?
Cloud?
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I mean, like you said, we were talking about it yesterday, and I was like, man, I can't believe I, went down like 4 points in the last week. And it was because I'm not, like you said, engaging with the community and offering them things. Because when you look at Klout's choices of how they give you your scores, it also has to do with your Facebook interaction, and if you're putting out links that are valuable that other people retweet, and if you're saying stuff that other people find important. And I looked at my score because I did a lot of stuff on Twitter because it's easy mobile, and I thought, well, why did my score go down? And then I thought, I haven't posted anything to my Facebook page in 3 days. That's why it went down. I forgot to engage with my Facebook community, so it reminded me to go over there. 3 days is not a long time in the world, but it reminds you that, hey, wait a minute, in the world of Facebook, you just fell off of the planet. So I had to go over and post something and, start interacting with that community and continue on, which didn't take me more than 5 minutes to post something, find something of value, post it, go over there.
Yeah. Well,
I use it to say I'm important. I certainly don't use it along those lines, like, hey, look at me, I'm cool. I use it more, like you said, as a metrics and a gauge of how well I'm interacting with others.
Right. No, I mean, I think that's key. I think it's essential, and I think that, you have to. And I think it's tough, too, because as you get more involved in these spaces, it's easier to lose track of people, and I see that happening a lot. But, I mean, I'm also really busy with real estate, so that's where the time management things come into play, which we will be hitting on in one of the future webinars. So let's see. Nobu came in with a comment on Cloud. He said, Cloud is being used in the retail space now. He just comped a lunch in Vegas at the Wynn by checking in and tweeting about the experience. Yeah, that's the interesting thing that they're doing, so you're right, Nobu. I've gotten a lot of things from Cloud as well, as far as, what movies, jackets, things like that. And it's fun to get rewarded like that, and I believe in it, but I also find it's interesting that people are saying it means nothing. It means something. It just, I don't know that there's really any perfect way to measure interactions and engagement. So I think that, the key is that everybody needs to go in with their own strategy and their own plan and what your goal is. So that's why I recommend having a business plan and strategy. So the kinds of people in social media, I think that there are 4 kinds of people in social media. The naturals, they're the masters of the space, perhaps digital natives. Digital natives are typically, maybe the people that started in computers when they were really early. I did that. Programmers, people that just understand the human mind and interaction. I mean, everybody's a different kind of personality. I think they're easily able to interact, anticipate, and strategize. They flow with their environments and don't appear to miss a beat, and they're usually cool and calm. I think those are the people that tend to become the leaders in any aspect of life. I mean, they don't have to be naturals in their digital natives or natural in social media. I think they're just that personality type that tends to come forward and lead. So what do you think, Sherry?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and within any industry and any realm of our business, there are people who are followers and those who are leaders, and most people know who they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's it's not to say that anybody can attain that and anybody can be that, but again, it's if you're first into an area, you have a better opportunity to position yourself as a leader. When I started web development in 93 or 94, I mean, I had that opportunity, but I left the space as it was really gaining momentum in 2001. And that's fine, but, it's kind of interesting to think about the progression and what would have happened if I continued in the space. But that's neither here nor there. But, you have naturals in all aspects of life. The people that become politicians, the people that lead companies, inventors, that everything just happens. So it's kind of neat. The next one are the pros. They study, they build, they plan, they analyze best returns on interactions. They're clearly defined objectives for everything. Those are your really strategic people. I think that it's not a negative to say they're calculated. They get it, and they want to take full advantage of it. So I think that they're constantly processing information and sort of saying, if I do this, this will happen. And I think they're very analytical is probably the best way to describe them, wouldn't you say, Cher?
Oh, absolutely. Very calculated. If you look at people like a Chris Smith or a Jonathan, they post on Facebook not because they're bored. There's a reason behind it, and they're providing content and value. And people like Dale Chumley with his 365 days, there's a reason he does that. It's not that he just loves his city so much he wants to share it with everyone else. I mean, that can be a portion of it, but it's also a planned out, building a foundation within that social network of the person who provides that information. So,
yeah, I agree. But those are the people I think of, like my friend Kelly Alexa. She's a strategist and does social media consulting at a very high level. And those are the people that you've got your business analysts and things that kind of move into the spaces. So there's plenty of room for everybody. The casual user just hanging around, interacting. It's an outlet. It's a place to chat. It's a place to kill time, vent their frustrations, be a personality. It's just a distraction from everyday life. I think you have a lot of carryovers from other news groups and the related, like I use Yahoo as a primary, but I guess, AOL and things like that. But it's interesting because they're talking about social media is now contracting, it's expanding, but now the communities are sort of breaking down into smaller communities, and maybe the Hip Proof is an example of that. So you have the greater open spaces, but then you almost have to have these smaller spaces where you can really connect. And it's hard to keep track of people, so lists on Twitter and groups on Facebook, things like that are really useful. So casual users, most people, and even some of the agents. The pretender. This is more of a warning because we have these residual folks from early on in BBSs and chat rooms, and they're people that use the space online to create a new identity and, be someone that they're not necessarily, because they need that. They need an outlet. They need to reinvent themselves. But you have to be careful, too, because, inherently we want to trust everybody. But the reality is we don't necessarily know enough about people. So just completely blindly giving trust, don't ever give somebody your credit card number, that kind of thing. And check them out. If your instinct says, I don't think so, then go with your instincts. So, yeah, be cautious. Explore the spaces. Twitter search, oh my gosh, that is the best place to connect with people. And I don't know that enough people use that because there's search.twitter.com. Now, Twitter is an open community for the most part. You can have a protected account, but most people don't. So you can really search for people using terms pertinent to your marketplace, your geographical farm, and your business plan, and engage with them without worrying about, is it appropriate for me to say something to them? It would not be appropriate if they didn't say something, but, I mean, they're putting it out onto Twitter. It's pretty much there for the whole world to see. Why wouldn't it be appropriate? So, and I should probably bring up an example and show everybody Twitter search while we're doing that. Let's see. I've got far too many windows open. So, oh, goodness. Do you use Twitter search a lot, Sherry?
I don't. I'm honestly, just because I don't do much, I communicate a lot, but I don't seek out other people a whole lot. I use it more to show agents what they can do with it and what they can find, but I spread myself out a lot more on Facebook.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know that I use Facebook as much, but looking here, I just simply search for the word real estate. Now, you could do this in the advanced search as well, and you can search for geographical areas and things like that. And I have a column in TweetDeck, and I have one in Hootsuite that watches for real estate. So I've actually in the past been able to, and see it refreshes too, that's a nice thing, I've been able to find people who are actually looking for real estate agents. So, if you find somebody you're interested in too, you can just mouse over and follow directly through that. So it makes life a lot easier. Now, the advanced search is really useful, especially for a new user, because what you could do is if someone's inputted their area, you could put, like I'm putting my zip code in, and all of these words, real estate, and do a search. So it's searching based on that. Unable to geocode this location. Well, that's just fabulous. All right, then. Well, let's try that again, unless the geolocation is down, which would be a problem. We'll try another zip code and see what happens. There we go. All right, so anyway, so it should be if they're broadcasting it. So here you go for the real estate. Oh, look at that. That's nice. So one of my local groups has put that out there for me. So what I'm seeing now are people that in my area are talking and mentioning the word real estate. So you're kind of targeting it a little bit better, and you could always just start following people. So anyway, you, like for instance here, commercial lease data, is it free? Duke Long, who's a friend of mine, has posted something, and someone else here in this area has tweeted it. So this is a good way to find people in your local area, and the map will show you where the results are being pulled from. So that's pretty darn helpful. So let's jump back here. Sorry. Okay. Facebook. Search for friends or groups. So let me jump back now again, and I'll go to the Facebook search because I think the Facebook search is pretty cool. Let me get the home page here. Okie dokie doke. Let's see. One neat trick, and I got this one from Chris Smith, is moving to Philadelphia. I love this. It's like the secret search. So they made groups, but when you click on people, oh really? You're going to do that for me now? Post by everyone. Oh, I hit the wrong thing. Post by everyone. So 11 hours ago is moving to Philadelphia on May 4th. Awesome. So, you're kind of seeing things that are going on, and then you can research into these people and see if you connect with them in some way. Not everybody does. And if you can't really find a way to connect, it's tough. Now, of course, you can always send them a message and say, hey, I was just doing a search and I saw you're moving to Philly. I work in Philly as a real estate agent. If you need any info on the area, I have lots of relocation stuff. Just let me know. You're not saying, can I be your realtor? You're just offering to share information. And they may not like it. They may not respond, or they might. And if they do, great. If not, so be it. You tried it. It's just like calling an expired or calling FSBO. Whether they choose to respond or receive you positively, you don't know until you try. But if you don't put yourself out there, you're not going to know what happens. So that is that method. Let's see, LinkedIn. Yeah, you can search for your friends. LinkedIn is great. LinkedIn is your professional space. So think of yourself as wearing a business suit and proper business attire. You're not going to talk about your day and your status updates. Don't send your Twitter updates to LinkedIn. Twitter is for chatter, more or less, sharing, having a conversation. Facebook is, maybe posting questions and getting interaction with your friends in your community. And then LinkedIn is more professional. It's the place where you want to try to find people that you worked with if you came from another industry before real estate and reconnecting with them, but respecting that this is a much more professional platform and you don't want to be doing frequent updates. I think that updating once or twice a day is sufficient. I always like to use LinkedIn as a place to celebrate my clients' victories for closing and things like that, take pictures at the table and tweet that out at settlement, things like that. Sherry, what's your take on those? Would you add anything to what I've said?
For LinkedIn?
For any of them, absolutely.
Yeah, I've found that I've really liked being a part of some of the new groups on Facebook. You just have to be careful of how much time it takes in setting up your settings so that you're not getting emails every 3 seconds when somebody posts on it. But I also found that the question and answers on LinkedIn helps you find people who are talking about things kind of similar to the Twitter search, people who are interested in talking about the same things that you are.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's. Do you use the groups on LinkedIn? I'm just curious about that.
I am a member of several groups, but they don't seem to be very, I mean, I get the email updates if somebody changes their job, if somebody changes their profile in a group or post meetings. So there's a local one that I like because they post sales meetings that they're having and stuff like that. But for the most part, no, they're difficult to get much from unless it's specifically like a real estate group, and then you're just going to be around real estate agents, and it's all online. But for local networking, I don't find it to be as advantageous as I would like to see it.
What's your favorite place to try to connect with a consumer or a potential client?
My favorite is Facebook. I think that once I get to know people on Twitter, occasionally I'll let them over onto Facebook, but there's so many ways to communicate with people on Facebook that is more than 140 characters. They can visually see when you post in a picture. You can send them mail. My client right now, who I mean, it's been an all Facebook transaction. I have met them once, and that was to sign the listing agreement. Or do the listing appointment. They came through Facebook. They posted on one of my friends and said, "How do you know anyone locally who's a real estate agent?" And she said, "Yep, Sherry." And then since then, we've been able to communicate, and not only are we communicating, but she posted when we sold the house the other day that we sold the house, and then she went on to say how wonderful I was. And I just think that it's seeing a wider audience. So I think you can make the initial connection on Twitter, but my favorite is Facebook. But we all have our own, like you said in the very first slide, we all have things we're comfortable with.
Absolutely, and I think some people are stronger in some areas than others. I mean, Twitter is my strength. Facebook I enjoy, but also it's a matter of time, because time management again comes up. Is priority is to concentrate on activities that are going to make us money, and this is a prospecting tool, but it doesn't replace calling expired, calling FSBOs, calling your circle, and all those other things. So you have to be careful in how far you dig into these things. So. Rules of engagement, and I have actually lost the webinar panel, so I can't even see if there's anything coming up as far as questions. So hang on a second, guys, see if I can bring that back for myself. I know you can't see it.
And I can't even see it, so.
I know, I can, so I just have to see. Okay, so I don't have any questions. All right, so hang on. We went back again. All right, there we go, rules of engagement. So you want to explore. You want to click around, check things out, read posts from other people, observe, watch interaction, see how people act between each other. Don't make any assumptions from that, though, because, again, tone isn't there. Respect others in the community. Try to be pleasant. Try to be positive. It's not really the police to vent, and kind of try to remember that everything is out there. Once you put it there, it could be indexed and there forever. Misinterpretation and misunderstanding is just so possible, unfortunately. Let's see, interact. Step out of your comfort zone. Some people are like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I don't know these people. Well, I look at actors and people that get on stage, and I have so much respect for them, because I don't think I would be, or I probably not now, but at some point in my life where I wanted to be an actor, I don't think I could have done a good job, because I didn't have the self-confidence and sense of self to be out there and pretend to be someone else. So, there's a lot to be said to just kind of jump in. The water's fine once you know how to swim. Nobody's going to attack you, and even if you do get approached by somebody who, as we call them, trolls, just respond positively, because they're looking for a fight or an interaction like that, and if you don't give them what they're seeking, then it sort of disarms them, and you won't have to deal with it. So, try not to let it all stress you out. Engage, have a conversation, any conversation. If you see 3 or 4 people talking about something and you have a thought or want to get involved, just put it all right out there. Absolutely. It's, become part of the conversation. You can jump in at any time. It's like a cocktail party on Twitter. Same thing on Facebook. If you cruise past a friend's page and they have some conversation going, 20 comments down, and you have something you want to throw in, then go ahead and do it. Absolutely. So, and connect. Put others in touch. So what I find is interesting and often is that I might know somebody who's doing something, and then I'll know someone else who's doing something similar, but they have no way of knowing each other. Introduce them. Jessica Northey did that for me yesterday. She introduced me to an agent in Tucson, and I'm going to talk to her about kind of going out there and bringing the hip roof to people's attention. So that's somebody I never would have known, but I said to Jessica, hey, so here's what I'm doing, and Jessica goes, wait a minute, I know somebody who would really be interested. So, connecting other people makes you a more valuable member of the community. And that's really what it's all about, because people will be grateful for the interactions and for the introductions, and serendipity being what it is, you never know what will happen. Grow. Find new people. Rinse and repeat. Just keep looking for people that are interesting. And it's not about collecting numbers. It's about quality, not quantity. So find people that you're interested in. And, of course, people abandon accounts and stop talking and disappear for weeks on end, and that's okay. There's no promised engagement time or attendance, and nobody checks on any of the sites. Sometimes we start to worry about people when they disappear if they're so regular in their interactions. And, so just keep an eye on those things, because people's lives have been saved when they've had accidents or things or medical problems, and people don't know what's going on. So promote, share great finds. This is important, especially for real estate agents, because if you're looking at lenders, or if you're following in the news, or you're following our technology or some of these other sites, if there's great information about an economic forecast, market conditions, interest rates, the state of things, sharing that by tweeting it out or putting it on your Facebook page or sharing it to LinkedIn if it's a very well-done sort of business-related article is a good way for people to also find you, because if they're searching on a topic, you also can get picked up by the keywords. So, and people do appreciate the sharing, so that's part of what it is. So, Sherry, what would you add, darling?
Well, the people definitely want to interact with you, and that's really the important thing, and to really pay attention, and I think about it a lot, of what it is that you're saying and who it is that's reading it, because they may not respond to you, and you may not get an instant reaction of what you said, but people are reading them. Twice this week, the biggest radio personalities in our market mentioned tweets that I said. And I had to read back and go, oh, my God, oh, what did I say? Like people said, hey, so-and-so just mentioned your tweet. And one was the Ohio governor said something about how North Carolina was stealing all their jobs. And I just
well, give them better incentives to say. Sorry, Margie.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, it was just, and I just said, hey, maybe it's the warmer weather, something like that, went back and forth. And then, but the point is that they didn't say anything to me until the next day. Hey, Sherry, thanks for mentioning, so-and-so was talking about North Carolina. We used it on the show. So you have to really be aware of what other people, that other people are reading what you're writing, even if they're not engaging with you. So.
And Margie comes back with, I'm not proud of our governor.
I know.
Yeah, Nobu's in Minnesota, so he's staying out of it, though. So
I know. Right. Well, my mom is camped out in the Capitol in Madison, so we won't talk about it.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So the nature of the community is it tends to be like close interlopers. I think that that's just as you establish your own network of friends and everybody is trusted and knows each other, they tend to push interlopers away and don't, they're protective. Like the gatekeeper's always on alert. Like, especially if you have somebody in your community who might be well known, or a celebrity or something like that, and it's like people are always trying to get something out of other people, and that sort of social climbing aspect that a lot of people do. And don't do that. Be genuine in your interactions. Just want to know people for people, and it's not an issue. So they tend to protect those held in high regard, and you have to earn trust. I think everybody is assumed to be trusted in social media. In general, when you meet people, you have no reason not to trust them, and I think that everybody is good-natured and well-intentioned, and I think that it's when somebody does make a choice or do something and they present themselves one way but they really are acting another way and it becomes clear that that's the kind of hard thing to recover from. So it's all about reputation management and risk reduction and making sure that you are true to your word and true to your promises and true to who you are. That's why I think being genuine is important. I don't believe in transparency, but that's another topic altogether. Demonstrate genuine intent. Be true to who you are and what you mean, and that's just it. Just be a good person and try to be reasonable and rational. And we're human beings, so that's not always the case with people. Respect the tribal elders. It's like, oh, geez, that's Godin tribes. But yeah, I mean, there are going to be leaders in communities. And I think that, when you discover who those folks are, learn about them, but be respectful. I think that there are a lot of people that are very knowledgeable and experienced in the social spaces, and there are a lot of people, I think, that are potentially envious of those positions, and they like to attack people. And there's really no reason for that. Everybody is allowed to have their own opinion, and that should always be respected. So, just if you don't agree with somebody, that's fine. You don't have to necessarily yell it out. If you have an emotional reaction to what somebody writes, then, step back and take the 24-minute rule into account and just say, okay. So, emotional reactions are never good. So just respect everybody's opinions and respect people in general, and you'll do well. Become a part of it. Find connection points. Like Sherry, you and I connected in Raleigh at the bar camp. I know we had followed each other for a long time on Twitter, and we really hadn't talked all that much. But, finding things that you have in common with people, and I think, like for me, I mentioned her again, but Jessica Northey is a good example. She and I have been friends online for a while, and we got on the phone yesterday to talk about a project she's working on, and we ended up on the phone for close to 3 hours while I was driving around and doing a bunch of other things, just talking about tons of stuff related to social media, radio, music industry, and real estate and community websites, actually. So that was interesting because kind of, you find a reason to know somebody, you connect from a point in common, but then you discover shared interests. But you provide value by providing information. That was sharing again, which I was talking about earlier. And then as real estate agents, one of the keys for us is to share our knowledge and expertise. That's the goal here. You want to be the area expert. Again, perception is reality. So if you're providing valuable information on your market, on market conditions, on things like that, then people will, first of all, they'll find you when they're searching, and they'll rely upon you because you've given them good information. So I think that's important. Are there any specific ways you think is best to kind of approach that expert positioning, Sherry?
Well, there probably isn't like a best. I just have my own little philosophy of how it works best into my life. But I do things like using Foursquare, which also then goes to Twitter. And when I check in at a real estate training thing and say something, look, I don't say, look, I'm getting better educated or more educated in my profession, but it says, hey, I'm interactive in my community of real estate, or I tweet stuff saying, hey, I'm going to look at houses for my investors, because then it just reminds people. It doesn't say, I don't beg for business and say, any investors out there need me to sell them a house? I just kind of say, going out there to look, at foreclosures today, which just reminds people that I'm in that business. So I'm more of a drip on you. I think all of my followers certainly by all means know that I'm in real estate, but I'm not sure I've ever tweeted, hey, by the way, does anyone know I'm in real estate?
Well, no, yeah, and I think I do a lot of the same thing. It's sort of like, be a personality, provide good information, and make sure, you want to interact as a human being in all the platforms, in all the spaces, be a personality, communicate, be selective. Don't tell somebody where you are necessarily if, you're all by yourself. It's safety first always. But, yeah, you're right. It's like I'll throw something out sometimes after a closing and be like, hey, I've got room for a new client. Anybody need an agent? But I rarely do that, or I'll take pictures as I plant signs at listings or put a sold sign up or things like that. But, I probably don't do it as much as I should. But, I like to watch some people that I've worked with and how they're doing it and see their results. I wish there was a really good way to measure the results for real estate, but it's like there's no consistency, so it's pretty hard to do that. But, making the connections and sharing with people, and there's no value if you can't help others. I think that's key because, everybody has good days, everybody has bad days, and sharing successes with other people and celebrating the victories of your friends. I think that that's important. Showing appreciation and gratitude. Somebody wrote it, what is it, the thank you? Oh, Margie, you know this, don't you?
Gary Vee. The Thank You Economy by Gary Vee.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. I knew Gary Vee, but I couldn't remember the name of the book. But the Thank You Economy, and that's key, is the gratitude, appreciation, and thoughtfulness. I think we're coming back to that in society. And, it would be lovely if people, I'm looking at a thank you note here I got from the Sun Queen on Twitter, Janae Duane, for something we did in the fall, and she's coming to town again this weekend. But, it's so nice to get thank you notes. Jonathan Rivera sent me a thank you note. So, it's important to make those touches and show appreciation. Unmarket yourself. Woo, Stratton. It isn't about the sale. It's about the service and the value. Everyone could be a customer, so remember that at every interaction. Be positive contributors as often as you can to the community and help others become part of it. For the real estate agent, I think that the essentials here in unmarketing yourself, and I did a coaching call with my team member Kim yesterday, and we were going through expired scripts and the calls she would make. So I took the position of I'm the expired buyer or I'm the expired listing. So she's going through the script, and she hit me up with something. And, are you interested in listing your house, or why do you think your house didn't sell? And I just got onto a tirade like, well, all these agents are calling me. This is so annoying. I hate it. And we didn't sell because our agent didn't market us properly, and so on and so forth. So she followed the script and started to go into something, and I said, stop. I said, stop. You sound like you're selling. You can't be selling. I said, she's just made an appeal to you on an emotional level. You need to connect with her. Listen, acknowledge, apologize, and share your experience with her. And, because she, I guess, I said, if you've gone through that, if you've had a common experience, share it and find a way to connect with them as a human being, because they're already on the defensive. And if you are out there trying to sell them, they're going to be pushing back on you. And make sure they understand, for you, it's about customer service. It's not about the sale. It's about customer service and providing value. I'm here to help you make a decision. Is it even the right time to sell your house? Does it work for you? Were you priced properly? Don't pressure them into, here are the papers, sign them. Acknowledge that they're a human being and that you want to help them. And that's what it's all about. There are some people that say, get the close, get the close, get the close. But I would say that more consumers run away from that than would run away from, how can I help you?
I'm going to put in a real quick story that happened this weekend about that. And, I don't often cry in real estate, and you've heard me say there's no crying in real estate. But my customers this weekend who I was talking about on my Facebook thing literally made me cry because they listed, and you've been with me through this transaction where they listed their house. We got an offer right before Christmas. They didn't take it. I was like, are they crazy? And then we got another offer at the end of January, which was full price, and then they sent me back an email that said we've decided to take the house off the market. And then I was really like, are you people out of your mind? Now I'm mad, but I wasn't. I said, okay, that's great. If you guys change your mind, let me know. And then 2 weeks ago, they sent me an email saying we got a job offer. We're we're moving to Savannah. You were so great to work with the first time. Please come put our house on the market again. Of course, I know I sound ridiculous at this point. Why did I go? But they were wonderful to work with, and we listed the house last Thursday. We got a full-price cash offer on Friday morning. We're closing April 1st, and when I went to get the contract signed by them, they said, we really appreciate you not pressuring us. We had decided we were going to get divorced. And when it came down to it and we had to sign a contract, we decided we would stay together. And then it so happened that he got a job transfer, and this all worked out the way that it was supposed to. But, I was the agent who didn't just sit there and go, well, I'll sue you for my commission because we have a full-price offer. Put yourself in their shoes and be the person who cares about their situation, where it was like, man, I'm glad it didn't work out at Christmas time where they would have split up and, split their family up, and it all worked the way that it should. So, they're the ones who are also on Facebook saying how absolutely wonderful I am, and now they're my new, if you want to use one of those cliches, raving fans.
Well, and the funny thing is you're so right, and that's a great example of a success. And I think and I should add too, Margie said, by the way, you can't get the close if you make the prospect close the door, and that's a great statement. But I've gotten more referrals from people that I have never sold a house to or for, because I have helped them make a decision that's right for them or serve them in some way. Now, no, I don't make any money in those circumstances, but the value of that investment in the actual human interaction has a much greater return on investment than if I have a listing and if the client doesn't set expectations and they're disappointed in me purely based on they wanted one thing but didn't tell me. So I think it's also important, and we'll get into that in more of coaching, but it's also important to tell your clients to tell you what they need. But that was a great story, Sherry. I'm glad that turned out that way. So that's pretty much it for rules of engagement. But hey, for Hip Roof members, wanted to kind of talk about this because I kind of came up with this last night. Is the Hip Roof Refer a Friend program. You want to refer a friend and get a gift? If you email us the name of someone who then signs up for the Hip Roof membership, you'll get a $10 Amazon gift certificate. We appreciate you, and we want you to know that. So share this great community with your friends. And, of course, we do have an affiliate program, and that's a great way to get a sales force, because the site is about the community. It's about the real estate agent. It's about everybody contributing. So I'm hoping that pretty soon I'm going to have the expert contributors all providing bios and pictures so we can have everybody on the About page and in that section of the website so that people will know who's in here. And if you know anybody that you think would be a really good expert contributor or should be considered for that, please let me know. Or Sherry or Shantae or anybody. That's what it's all about, is we're trying to get the most people we can who can provide value to everybody and share an education. And I know we've got a couple of them in the webinar today. Margie Clayman, she's our social media specialist. She's in marketing and advertising. She's an excellent writer and has a great blog, margieclayman.com. And Nobu Hara, who is a realtor in Minnesota, also very well respected in the social media spaces and incredibly successful, and an absolute delight. Margie, you're a delight too. Oh, and Sherry,
Super awesome helper of YPN, too.
Oh, my gosh.
She's like the man for YPN.
Yeah, like he and Bobby and, like the YPN heroes and the NARS, the National Association of Realtor folks. But, yeah, everybody's really awesome at
They're young enough to do that. They can run around like that.
I know. They keep telling me I'm young enough, but I don't believe them because I believe I've been told the cutoff is 40. So I'm not quite sure. So
I've been to ours, and I don't think so.
And Nobu says, "Aw, thanks, guys. No, you rock, dude. We love you, my little punk rock friend." So anyway, so we hope everybody enjoys Hip Roof, and as we continue to grow, and Sherry's getting the boot camp for real estate ready, and I'm getting the e-books ready. And I know that it's not going to be the right site for everybody, but I hope that people will give it a shot, and I hope that it is. And the beauty of it is it can grow to anything that the community wants it to be, and it's really about everybody who's a member. So, that's what it is. I'm the community manager. That's it. I'm the facilitator. And, hopefully we all start sharing and growing. So Look forward to it, and we're still until next Friday, March 11th, going to be doing $5 per member for the Real Estate Zebra Legal Defense Fund. Daniel Rothenal is being sued for using the word zebra. I wonder when they're going to slap that same suit on all the zoos in the country, and I don't know what is the zoos and radio shows, and I can think that zebra print and all these other things. So anyway, off the platform. So thank you very much for joining us for Rules of Engagement. And Sunday night open forum, the votes are out there now. I'm sorry, the poll is out, so you can vote between, I think there were 3 topics. So I hope everybody will do that and see inside the forums. If you are interested in being a blogger on the site, let me know. And thank you so much for joining Sherry and I. Have a great day.